My wife slept with the man she once called just a friend, and I was too blind to see her slipping away. It started so small you could almost laugh. Carla had always been a talker, fast on her feet, quick to joke. But somewhere along the way, she picked up a new habit. Whenever she texted him, she smiled without even noticing. Her phone would light up, her eyes would dart down, and the corners of her mouth would twitch like she was trying to suppress a secret. It didn't seem important then. Not when she laughed it off, calling him just a friend with that light, careless tone women use when they want you to feel stupid for even asking. I wasn't worried. Not at first. Not when she started staying out late because of work things that didn't quite add up. Not even when she started dressing differently, a little more polished, a little more deliberate. Tops that used to be reserved for date nights were now everyday wear. The kind of lipstick that left a little stain on coffee cups she used to complain about now somehow found its way onto every mug in the house. I told myself it was good. She deserved to feel beautiful. But the silences grew longer. Conversations that used to drift effortlessly between us now felt clipped, tight, like the space between us was shrinking while something else crept in. I remember the first Friday night she forgot to text she was running late. I sat there at the kitchen table, cold lasagna turning rubbery on my plate, checking my phone every few minutes like a dog waiting for a whistle that never came. When she finally walked in, flushed and out of breath, carrying some ridiculous story about a coworker's birthday party running late, I smiled. I smiled because I didn't want to be that guy, the paranoid husband who turns dinner into a courtroom. A week later, she missed another dinner. 2 weeks later, another. I learned not to ask. I learned to reheat my own food and tell myself she was just busy, that this was life, that people change. Still, there were small things. Her perfume, the one she used to save for anniversary nights, now clouded the air every time she left the house. The way she guarded her phone like it was something sacred. The way she would mention him casually, like seasoning sprinkled over a dish. Mike said this, or Mike thinks that, always paired with a little laugh, a little shine in her eye she used to save for me. One night, she left her phone face down on the couch. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. The screen lit up on its own. Can't wait to see you again. No name. Just a message. I stared at it until the screen went black, the glow disappearing into the fabric. I told myself it was probably one of her girlfriends. Some stupid inside joke. Something harmless. But the taste of copper filled my mouth anyway, and my hands itched to pick it up, to look, to know. I didn't. Not then. Because when you spent years building a life with someone, you don't go looking for cracks. You pretend the house isn't shaking. A few days later, I tried to bring her favorite dinner home, spicy pad thai from that place across town she used to beg for. I set the table, even opened a bottle of wine. When she walked in and saw it, she blinked, startled, like she was looking at a stranger in her own home. "What's all this for?" she asked, setting her purse down too quickly. I mumbled something about missing her, about needing a night together. She smiled then tight, thin, polite. The kind of smile you give to a neighbor you don't really know. She picked at her food, checked her phone twice, laughed once, but not at anything I said. Afterward, she kissed me on the cheek like I was her grandfather and went to bed early, claiming a headache. I sat at the table for a long time, swirling wine around in my glass, listening to the distant hum of the TV she turned on upstairs. That night, I stared at the ceiling until dawn cracked the sky open. I didn't know it yet, but that was the night our marriage died, quiet and unseen, like a body slipping beneath black water. The next morning, she was all apologies and easy smiles, acting like everything was fine, like she hadn't left me sitting at that table feeling like a fool. And I, the ever-faithful husband, believed her. Because I wanted to. Because sometimes, the lie is warmer than the truth. But something inside me shifted. Just a little. The seed of suspicion, once planted, doesn't die. It grows wild, twisting around every word, every glance, every touch that feels a little too quick to end. A few nights later, I heard her whispering in the bathroom with the door closed. Not loud enough to make out the words, just soft murmurs and the occasional sharp little laugh. I told myself she was talking to her sister. I told myself it didn't mean anything. But when she climbed into bed beside me, she smelled like someone else's cologne, not mine. The next few weeks blurred into a haze of little betrayals that didn't have names yet. She stopped asking me about my day. Stopped laughing at my stupid jokes, the ones that used to earn me an eye roll and a kiss. Some nights, I would walk into her room, and she would jump like she had been caught stealing. And still, I said nothing. Because the thought of pulling the thread and watching the whole thing unravel terrified me more than silence. It's funny how love makes you stupid. I could smell the wrongness thick in the air, like the way the earth smells before a storm breaks open. But I clung to my routines like a drowning man clutching driftwood. Wake up. Work. Pretend. She was staying out later now, always with some excuse perched perfectly on her lips before I even had the chance to ask. A last-minute work dinner, a drink with friends, an emergency at the office. And there it was again, his name, dropped casually into conversation, like a bead of sweat slipping down a glass. Mike said the funniest thing today. Mike needed help moving his desk. Mike invited everyone to his place next weekend. You should come. The invitation twisted something ugly in my gut. I said maybe. I said I'd check my schedule. I said it with a smile so tight it made my jaw ache. That night in bed, she curled her back to me and fell asleep within minutes. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting the slow, even breaths coming from her side of the bed, wondering when my wife had become a stranger. The next morning, a small fight broke out over nothing: toothpaste left uncapped on the sink, a damp towel on the floor, but underneath it, I could feel the real anger simmering. You're always so tense lately, she snapped, brushing past me in the hallway. And you're always somewhere else, I said before I could stop myself. She froze. For half a second, her face crumpled, not with guilt, not with fear, but with disgust. She caught herself quickly, smoothing it over with a tight smile that didn't touch her eyes. You're being dramatic, she said, her voice airy, dismissive. You're working too hard. That's all. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was tired. Maybe the problem was me. I told myself that while I stood under the scalding shower, scrubbing myself raw like I could wash the doubt out of my skin. That weekend, she spent the whole Saturday out shopping with friends. She came home with nothing but a new lipstick, a deep red shade she had never worn before, and an air of breathless exhaustion. I asked her if she wanted to watch a movie. She said she was too tired. Went straight to bed. I sat on the couch alone, watching some mindless action flick, the TV's blue glow painting the empty living room. I told myself not to check her phone. I told myself that good men trusted their wives. I didn't touch it. But trust doesn't silence the screaming inside your head. It just buries it. Sunday afternoon, we tried to play normal. She suggested a walk through the park, like we used to do when things were simple. The trees were shedding their leaves, spilling yellow and red across the sidewalks, the air thick with the smell of wood smoke and change. I reached for her hand, and for a second, she let me take it. Her fingers were cold, limp, unfeeling. Halfway through the walk, her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket and checked it faster than a reflex. The smile, that secret, glowing smile, flashed across her face. I asked who it was. Trying to sound casual. Trying to be the man she could trust. Just Mike, she said, waving it off like it was nothing. Her hand slipped from mine after that. She kept it buried deep in her coat pocket for the rest of the walk. That night, we argued again. Small. Stupid. Pointless. Something about the way I loaded the dishwasher, or didn't. But beneath it, I knew what we were really fighting about. The widening distance. The 1,000 invisible cuts we'd both stopped pretending not to feel. She slammed the bedroom door and slept in the guest room. I lay awake, my chest burning with a rage I didn't know how to name. Not anger at her. Anger at myself for being weak, for being blind. I thought about calling Mike. I had his number once, buried somewhere deep in old text chains from group outings. I thought about showing up wherever she claimed she was going, standing across the street, watching. But I didn't, because doing that would make it real. And I wasn't ready for real yet. So I let it ride. I swallowed the suspicion like glass. I kissed her forehead the next morning like nothing was wrong. That whole week, I was a ghost in my own house. Moving quietly, pretending not to notice the perfume that wasn't for me, the careful makeup before her girls' nights, the new lace underwear tucked into the laundry she tried to hide. I started forgetting things at work. Meetings blurred together. Emails went unanswered. My boss pulled me into his office and asked if everything was okay. I told him it was. Lied through my teeth. What was I supposed to say? That my wife, the woman who once looked at me like I hung the stars, now barely looked at me at all? One night, after she fell asleep early again, I sat at the kitchen table in the dark. No lights. No TV. Just the steady hum of the refrigerator and the ache inside my chest. I thought about all the little betrayals. The nights spent waiting. The dinners gone cold. The scent of another man's cologne clinging to her skin. And still, I told myself it could all be nothing. That if I just waited long enough, she would come back. That if I loved her hard enough, loud enough, desperately enough, she would remember what we had. But in the pit of my stomach, I knew better. Love doesn't fix what's already been given away. The next Monday, she left for work an hour earlier than usual. Said there was a big meeting she couldn't be late for, flitting around the bedroom like a hummingbird on Red Bull, stuffing papers into a tote bag she hadn't touched in months. I lay there watching her, half covered by the bedsheets, pretending to still be half asleep. Pretending not to notice how she checked her phone every 30 seconds like she was waiting for a rescue text. When she leaned over to kiss my forehead, the scent of new perfume, sharp, sweet, sickening, clung to her like a second skin. Not the soft vanilla she used to wear for me. Something new. Something daring. Something not meant for a husband lying crumpled in bed. I waited until I heard the door click shut and her car pull out of the driveway before I moved. I wasn't proud of what I did next. But when you've been dying slowly for weeks, you'll do anything to breathe again. I found her laptop tucked into the bottom drawer of the desk, still warm from being shoved in too fast. She rarely used it anymore. Said her phone was easier. But part of me prayed she'd slipped up. The password was the same. Of course it was. People never change what they think is safe. Her email opened with a soft little chime that sounded too cheerful for the bile rising in my throat. At first, nothing. Bank statements. Work memos. Some recipe newsletters. Then I found it, an email thread, archived but not deleted, between her and someone simply saved as M. I clicked it open. It wasn't graphic. It wasn't even explicit. It was worse. Plans. Times. Private jokes. Inside smiles tucked between lines of cold logistics. Things like, can't wait for tomorrow. Wearing the thing you like. You're bad for my concentration. Hope you know that. Missed you last night. Dreamed about you. It wasn't just about sex. It was intimacy. The kind you build with someone you never have to go home to. I closed the laptop carefully. No rage. No tears. Just a hollow numbness sinking deeper with every breath. When she got home that night, she acted like nothing had changed. Chatted about her day, complained about traffic, scrolled mindlessly through her phone while I reheated leftovers neither of us touched. I watched her. Really watched her. The way she barely made eye contact. The way her fingers fluttered nervously when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she checked the clock behind my head every few minutes like she had somewhere better to be. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the plates against the wall and demand the truth. But instead I said, "How was your meeting?" She smiled that brittle, shiny smile and said, "Good. Boring, but good. Liar." The next day, I started noticing the lies stacked up like cordwood everywhere. A receipt in the trash for a restaurant across town the same night she swore she was working late. A second wine glass drying in the sink, even though we hadn't had a guest in months. A tiny bruise on her neck she tried to hide with a clumsy dab of concealer. And through it all, she still called him just a friend when she talked about him. Just Mike. Just a friend. Just a slow knife twisting deeper into my ribs every time she said it. That Friday, we had another fight. It started small, like they always do. I asked if she wanted to go out to dinner, just us, like old times. She said she was exhausted. I said maybe we could at least order in, watch a movie. She rolled her eyes. Said she needed me time. That's when I snapped. "Is that what you call it now?" I said, my voice low and shaking. "Running off to be with your friend?" She froze. For half a second, the mask slipped, panic flashing across her face like lightning, before she smoothed it back into icy rage. "You're unbelievable," she hissed. "You're paranoid. You always have been." I laughed. A sharp, ugly sound that didn't even feel like it belonged to me. "Then show me your phone," I said, taking a step closer. She backed away like I had raised a hand to her, cradled her purse against her chest. "No," she said, her voice trembling with anger, not fear. "I don't have to prove anything to you." That was all the answer I needed. But somehow, I still stood there, hoping she'd prove me wrong. She stormed upstairs. I heard drawers slamming, heard the bathroom door lock. I sat down on the couch, my head in my hands, feeling the walls of the house we built together closing in around me. Later, she came back down, composed again, fresh makeup covering the crack I had forced into her facade. "I'm going to bed," she said. Flat. Final. She didn't say goodnight. Didn't look at me. I sat there long after the house went dark, listening to the soft hum of the heater, the creak of the floorboards settling above me, wishing I had the courage to leave, wishing I had the stupidity to believe her. Instead, I poured myself a whiskey, then another, and another, trying to drown the memory of the way she looked at her phone more tenderly than she ever looked at me anymore. Saturday morning, she was gone before I even woke up. A note on the counter said, "Running errands. Love you." Love you. Two little words that used to mean everything. Now they just mocked me from a scrap of paper. I didn't follow her. Not yet. Instead, I sat there at the kitchen table, spinning my wedding band around my finger, wondering how long a man could sit in denial before it swallowed him whole. That night, she came home late again. Said she got stuck in traffic. I nodded. Didn't ask questions. Didn't need to. She smelled like wine and expensive cologne. Not mine. I slept on the couch. Not because we fought. Not because she told me to. Because I couldn't stand the thought of lying next to her while she dreamed about another man. Sunday morning, I woke up to the sound of her laughing in the kitchen. Laughing. The sound cut through me like a blade. Bright and careless and happy, the way she used to laugh with me. I stood in the doorway, watching her stir coffee, the morning sun catching the glint of her new necklace, one I hadn't seen before. One she hadn't even bothered to hide. She turned and caught me staring. "What?" she said, her voice light, teasing. "Nothing," I said, my voice a stranger's. "Nothing at all." The Sunday after she laughed in the kitchen, I decided I couldn't sit still anymore. I watched her pour herself a second cup of coffee, humming to some stupid pop song on the radio, that little new necklace glinting at her throat, catching the light like a knife. She didn't ask me if I wanted coffee. She didn't even notice me standing there. It was like I had become a shadow in my own house. When she finally looked up, her smile was automatic, brittle around the edges. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said, her voice syrupy and false. I nodded, mumbled something, sat down at the kitchen table like a puppet. She chattered about her errands yesterday, lies wrapped in bright, harmless words, and all I could think about was how easily she lied to me now, how natural it came to her. After breakfast, she claimed she had to run out again. More errands. Always errands. Never ending. I followed her. Not closely. Not stupidly. I waited a few minutes after she pulled away, then grabbed my keys, heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped animal, and slipped into my truck. I kept 2 cars back. Watched her make unnecessary turns, double back twice, take the long way across town. She wasn't going shopping. She wasn't running errands. She was going to him. I knew it before she even pulled into the little side lot behind a coffee shop, one of those trendy places where nobody asks questions if you sit too close, laugh too loud, touch too long. I parked across the street, out of sight, and watched through the windshield. She got out of the car, checked her phone, smiled. A few minutes later, he appeared. Mike. Tall. Smirking. Wearing a leather jacket like he thought he was still 20 years old. He hugged her. Not a casual hug. Not the way you hug an old friend. Both arms wrapped tight around her waist, his head buried against her neck for a second too long. Her hands clutched the back of his jacket like she was holding on for dear life. I sat there gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, willing myself not to get out of the truck, not to cross that street, not to rip him away from her and make him answer for what he had stolen from me. They went inside. I waited. 30 minutes. An hour. 90 minutes. When they finally came back out, her lipstick was smudged, and she was laughing that same bright, cruel laugh I had heard in the kitchen. He kissed her cheek. Her hand lingered on his chest. She swatted his arm playfully, and he grinned like a wolf. She got into her car. He walked off down the street. I didn't follow her home. I didn't trust myself. Instead, I sat there for another hour, staring at the empty sidewalk where they had stood, breathing smoke into the cold afternoon air, feeling the last pieces of my life crack open inside me. When I got home, she was already there, barefoot in the kitchen, making dinner like nothing had happened. "How was your day?" she asked, tossing me a smile over her shoulder. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag her out into the driveway and force her to tell me the truth. Instead, I shrugged and said, "Quiet." Dinner was a silent, aching affair. She talked about nothing, the weather, some TV show she wanted to watch, some nonsense about redecorating the guest room. I nodded. I chewed. I swallowed. I didn't taste a damn thing. Later that night, she curled up next to me on the couch, her head resting against my shoulder, scrolling through her phone with one hand. I looked down at her. At the woman I thought I knew. At the woman who had once clung to me in the dark, whispering that I was her whole world. Now she clung to another man's promises, another man's touch, another man's lies. I stayed frozen, my arm around her, pretending not to see the way she smiled down at her phone, the way her fingers tapped out messages meant for someone else. I stayed frozen because I didn't know what else to do. If I moved, the illusion would break. If I spoke, the dam would burst. And I wasn't ready for the flood yet. The next few days passed in a haze of routine. She left early. Came home late. Kissed my cheek like I was a neighbor she barely remembered. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped checking her phone. It didn't matter anymore. I knew. But knowing wasn't enough. Not yet. I needed proof. I needed the truth to slap her across the face so hard that even she couldn't deny it. I started small. I borrowed an old phone from a buddy at work, a cheap burner with a cracked screen. I downloaded a tracking app, something simple, something she would never notice buried in the background. That night, while she showered, I slipped into the bathroom under the pretext of grabbing a towel. Her phone sat on the counter, screen up, password still the same. I moved fast. Connected the two devices. Set the settings so quiet and discreet she would never even know it was there. I slid the towel off the rack, called out something about heading to bed, and left. My heart hammered against my ribs so loud I was sure she could hear it over the running water. When she came to bed, she didn't notice anything was different. She kissed my forehead, curled up on her side of the mattress, and fell asleep within minutes. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the burner phone tucked under my pillow, its cold weight burning a hole in my skull. The next morning, when she left for her early meeting, I waited 5 minutes. Then I pulled up the app. She wasn't going to the office. She wasn't even on the right side of town. She was heading straight for him. I sat there staring at the blinking dot on the screen, feeling the last shreds of my self-respect crumble away. I thought about confronting her right then. I thought about showing up at his place, pounding on the door, dragging them both out into the daylight and making them explain themselves. But I didn't. Not yet. Because a man only gets one chance to break the illusion, to pull the mask off and see the rotten truth underneath. And when I did it, I wanted there to be no questions, no denials, no escape. I wanted her caught in her own lie, no way to wriggle free. I wanted her to feel it. That night, she came home glowing, laughing at something on her phone, smiling that secret smile. She barely glanced at me as she breezed into the kitchen, chattering about some fake project at work, some made-up crisis that had kept her so busy. I nodded. I smiled. I told her I understood. Because the longer I waited, the sweeter the fall would be. And I wanted her to fall hard. It happened 3 nights later. I was done waiting. Done bleeding slow. I wanted the final cut. Carla told me she was going to a late strategy meeting downtown. Said it with that same sweet, tired smile she always used to slap over her lies. I nodded. Kissed her forehead. Watched her drive away into the dark. Then I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and the burner phone. The tracker showed her moving fast across town, not to the office, not even close. She was heading toward the edge of the city, into one of those half-built condo complexes where the streetlights hadn't even been installed yet. The kind of place where people go when they want to disappear for a while. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding so hard it rattled my teeth. I killed the headlights when I got within 2 blocks. Parked behind a dead oak tree with gnarled roots clawing out of the ground like fingers. I watched. Her car pulled into a narrow alley, half hidden between 2 unfinished buildings. I saw her silhouette step out. She fixed her hair in the side mirror, checked her makeup, sprayed herself with perfume. The ritual of a woman going to meet a lover. Then a second car slid into the alley. Mike. The smug bastard didn't even try to hide it. Jumped out, ran to her, scooped her up like some damn romance movie. I saw them kissing deep, sloppy, desperate, like 2 teenagers who couldn't wait to tear each other apart. The world around me went perfectly silent. No cars. No wind. No beating heart. Just the sight of my wife, the woman I built a life with, melting into the arms of the man she swore was just a friend. They disappeared into one of the half-finished units. A ghost house of concrete walls and broken promises. I gave them 10 minutes. Then I moved. Quiet. Focused. Dead inside. I crept across the gravel, slipping into the shell of the building. The sound of my boots crunching the stones was deafening in the dark, but I didn't care. Let them hear me. Let them know. 3rd floor. Far corner unit. Voices echoing down the stairwell, low, breathless, frantic. I found them there. No furniture. Just a mattress thrown on the floor like 2 junkies hiding from the world. They didn't hear me at first. Mike was shirtless, jeans half off, fumbling with Carla's dress, laughing, whispering things that made my skin crawl. I stepped into the doorway. Carla saw me first. She froze, wide-eyed, mouth open, hands still tangled in his belt buckle. Mike turned, grinning, thinking maybe it was a joke, until he saw my face. I didn't say a word, didn't scream, didn't cry. I just lifted my phone, my real phone, and snapped a picture. The flash exploded across the room like a gunshot. They both flinched. Mike stumbled to his feet, cursing under his breath, trying to zip up his jeans. "Hey, man, listen," he started. I laughed. Sharp. Broken. Ugly. Carla scrambled off the mattress, clutching the front of her torn dress, eyes shining with tears. "Please," she whispered. "It's not what it looks like." Another laugh ripped out of my throat. I couldn't stop it. It sounded like a dying animal. "Not what it looks like?" I said, my voice razor sharp. "I watched you. I followed you. I watched you both crawl all over each other like animals." Mike tried to step toward me. I pulled a second phone out of my pocket, the burner. Held it up. "I have every move you've made for the last 3 days," I said. "Every meeting. Every lie. Every touch." Mike backed off. "Smart boy." Carla crumpled onto the mattress, sobbing now, her body shaking like she could cry her way out of it. I turned and walked out without another word. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I drove home in a blur. By the time I slammed through the front door, my hands were steady, cold, unforgiving. I opened the laptop, logged into our shared accounts, bank, mortgage, utilities. I drained every dollar from the joint savings, every last cent, transferred it into my private account, one she didn't know existed, one I set up years ago for emergencies. This counted. I printed the pictures from the condo. Not just one. Dozens. Every disgusting angle I could find. I slid them into an envelope, along with copies of our marriage certificate, our joint mortgage paperwork, and a handwritten note that said simply, "Good luck explaining this in court." I packed a duffel bag, bare essentials. Left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter. Right next to it, I placed the envelope. The last gift I would ever give her. The next morning, I was gone before the sun came up. I checked into a hotel across town under a fake name. Filed for divorce that same afternoon. Cited adultery. Filed a restraining order request. No contact unless through lawyers. I wasn't interested in hearing her cries. Wasn't interested in her apologies. Wasn't interested in her anymore. The lawyer smiled when he saw the stack of evidence I dropped on his desk. "This is brutal," he said, leafing through the photos. "She's going to lose everything." Good. I wanted her to lose. I wanted her to feel the cold floor she threw me down onto when she chose Mike's arms over mine. Over the next few days, I ghosted her completely. Blocked her number. Blocked her family. Blocked anyone who even smelled like her betrayal. Friends texted. Family called. Everyone wanted to know what happened. I said nothing. Let them figure it out when the court summons showed up at her door. I heard later, through mutual friends, that she spiraled fast. Mike dumped her within a week. Didn't want the drama of a woman in the middle of a divorce. Apparently, he wasn't looking for anything serious. Carla lost her job shortly after. Word spreads fast in a small city. Sleeping with the coworkers, just a friend, wasn't exactly a resume booster. I didn't care. I didn't rejoice. I didn't grieve. I just moved on. The last thing I ever sent her was one final message. Hope it was worth it. Then I blocked her one last time. Forever. Subscribe to hear more stories.